It's a matter of educate people that they should not fear the night, that the night is part of our ecosystem. Think how many animals, how many insects have nocturnal habits. They need the night to survive, while other animals and humans in this case are animals, they need to sleep.
Hello Space Watchers, I am Emma, Senior Editor of SpaceWatch.Global, and this is a new episode of Space Cafè Radio, your radio channel dedicated to emerging trends and live conferences in the space sector. The guest of today is Patrizia Caraveo, who is the Research Director at INAF, the Italian National Institute of Astrophysics. Patrizia, welcome to Space Cafè Radio. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks.
Patrizia, you wrote a book edited by Springer titled Saving the Starry Night, Light Pollution and Its Effects on Science, Culture and Nature. And in this period, we tend to speak a lot about space, but also we define space only as a new economic resource. But maybe it's worth it to remember that space is also an environmental dimension, exactly like the sea or a forest, and it must be preserved from pollution. The primary source of pollution sometimes when we speak about space is atmospheric pollution, but you discussed another type of alteration, which is light alteration. So what is light pollution and why we should be concerned about that?
Light pollution, it's an effect of our society. Let's say, we have a very deeply rooted fear of the night. And now we have the means to light up the night. So we tend to light up our environment too much because we tend to use too many sources of light, and we like to see very bright lights, and these are not needed at all since our eyes are very good in seeing also with weak lights. And we do not consider the fact that the light is useful to just illuminate the ground where we want to walk. The light is not useful at all when we send it toward the sky and nor toward the horizon. All lights not directed towards the ground is useless. And is not only useless, it's a waste of energy. And as a byproduct, it illuminates the sky. And this hampers view of the stars. If too much light switch off the stars, and so we have to learn to respect the dark. Also because darkness it's a part of our environment. It's ecologically very useful. But we were discussing not just about this light pollution, the one we produce by lighting the night on the ground, but we are now experiencing a new type of light pollution, which is linked to the proliferation of satellites. Very high number of satellites which are supposed to form constellations to just cover the entire planet. In this case, to provide internet connection from the orbit. These are thousands of satellites which are being launched. Up to now, Starlink, the constellation which is the brainchild of Elon Musk, has reached more than 2,000 satellites in orbit, and those satellites have been designed in a very strange way, in a sense. I call them kitchen tables, since they are really flat.
Why?
But they are flat. Usually a satellite is a cylinder, it's a cube, is some kind of solid form, while these are almost bidimensional. They are just a table, and pretty solid one, something like 2.5 meters by 1 meter. I mean, you can sit a number of guests around these satellite tables, and the fact of being so flat make them very reflective when the sun is just touching them in a quasi-incidence radiation. These happen when on the ground it's already dark, so it's either before dawn or after the sun sets. It's a very peculiar geometry. On the ground, there is no more illumination by the sun, but the sun still illuminates the satellites, since they are 300, 400, 500 kilometers above us, and they become very bright.
Can we see them from Earth, like from the ground?
Yes, when they are just being launched. They are inserted in a relatively low orbit, 250, 300 kilometers, since the satellites are tested right away. And if someone, because they are launched in bunches of 50 to 60 satellites in one single launch, and so they deploy, and in this case, they are all near, one after the other, and they are pretty low, and so pretty bright. They make trains of lights easily seen when they cross the sky. And people are struck by these sights, and they think they have detected extraterrestrial objects. There is a surge and a call to the UFO call center, saying, I saw a train of lights, it must be a UFO. No, they are not. They are Elon Musk satellites.
This is very interesting.
But I mean, I too have received mails from journalists asking, I saw these train of lights. What are they? Could they be extraterrestrial? And they say, no, they are very terrestrial.
Nope. You define the sky as a cultural heritage. This is extremely interesting, considering that the majority of the space discourse at the moment revolves around the sky being an empty resource to use and fill up to reach the moon. So why do you think that the sky is a cultural part of our identity?
Because the roots of our culture and of more or less all the cultures of all the civilizations in planet Earth are linked to the stars. Think to the Greek mythology. Everything you can think of is linked to a constellation. And this gives you really an idea on how familiar were our ancestors with the stars. The sky was the calendar of our ancestors. They decided when it was time to work on the field, looking at the stars. Orion is the hunter, and at European latitude Orion is bright in autumn when it's time to go hunting.
You also mentioned the issue of electromagnetic pollution also affecting radio waves. Is this a potential issue for example, astronomical research? Like, I don't know, we won't be able to detect the signal from deep space or from a black hole if we keep crowding the sky with the satellites, constellation, and unnecessary lights.
Satellites not only reflect lights, which hamper optical astronomy, but they also produce electromagnetic signal. They talk with the ground, with their clients, let's say, on the ground through microwaves. And microwaves pertain to the radio domain. So, yes, satellites are killers for radio astronomy, since the signal from a satellite is way stronger than a cosmic signal. When I say way stronger, I mean billions of times stronger. So there is already ongoing negotiation, let's say, between the radio astronomical observatories and the constellations, since the satellite must be aware that they are flying over a radio observatory and must behave in the sense that they can be temporarily switched off, or they can carefully avoid pointing toward the radio dishes. Since satellites do have a share of artificial intelligence, these can be done, but effort should be done in order to really work towards collaboration between satellite operator and radio astronomers.
Do they actually do that? I know you're still active in astronomy, so are you aware that when they are near a radio wave telescope, do satellites shut down or limit the emission, or does it actually happen?
They are not obliged, in the sense that a very small fraction is dedicated only to radio astronomy. So those wavelengths cannot be used for transmission by satellites. But satellites can transmit in nearby wavelengths. And if, let's say, the transmitters are not perfectly calibrated, they can just intrude also in the wavelengths dedicated only to radio astronomy. And so these must be carefully controlled, in a sense. This is one question, and this is being done. The other question is that in order to do observation also in other parts of the radio spectrum, which is not protected, which is not fully dedicated to radio astronomy, my radio astronomer colleagues must find a compromise. And this is being worked out. You must understand that constellations are a very young problem. The first launch of the Starlink satellites, the first 60 Starlink satellites were launched in May 2019. Up to them, the only trouble for radio astronomers were satellites working and transmitting in geostationary orbit, which are much farther away, and they are fixed. They do not move with respect to Earth. So they knew how to build their observing program in order to avoid them. On the contrary, the constellation satellites are at low orbit, and so they move continuously. And so it's not at all easy to try to avoid them, but it should be the satellite which do something to avoid being a nuisance over the radio telescope. Remember that radio telescopes are built in very remote places, which were selected because they were very radio quiet. So they are in desert places, in Australia, in South Africa, etc. The places were selected in order to be the quietest possible, but satellites are everywhere at this point.
So in your book, you explicitly say that darkness must be protected, which is a definition that I really like. Darkness must be protected. How shall we do it?
It's a matter of inform people, educate people that they should not fear the night, that the night is part of our ecosystem. Think how many animals, how many insects have nocturnal habits. They need the night to survive, while other animals and humans, in this case, are animals. They need to sleep, and so they need the darkness to sleep. So the darkness is important to protect, for instance, biodiversity. The darkness is important for the survival of many species of insects, and insects are a very important step in the chain that goes all the way to us. We are right now living in what it's called the apocalypse of the insects, since the number of insects is dropping at an alarming rate. And this is very bad for our ecosystem, it's very bad for the biodiversity, and bright lights of the wrong colors can be in part responsible for such loss. Think in a summer night, you see a bright street light, chances are that there is a cloud of insects around these lights. And those insects are not where they should be in a very high percentage. They will end up dying out of exhaustion, since they will be flying all the night long around these lights. So preserving the night is not only good for having the possibility to enjoy the stars, to enjoy the beauty of the cosmos, but it's also something we should learn to protect because it protects the environment. Darkness, it's part of ecology. Our environment to prosper needs darkness. And too much light, it's very detrimental also for our health. If we spend hours and hours in front of a computer screen at night, we then experience problem to sleep later on, since the computer produces blue lights. And the blue light is the light that affects our day and night rhythm, what is called the circadian cycle. And so it's very unhealthy also for human being not respect the night.
Yeah, I live in a very light polluted area near a shopping mall, so I perfectly understand what you mean. And I would love that we could have the chance to discuss about this more in depth, because, as you say, people has to be educated about it. So Patrizia, thank you very much for being with us today. And let's hope that we're not going to make of the sky the same we made with the forests and the oceans. And I would love to have the chance to discuss with you again about this topic. Thank you.
Thank you to all.
And if you want to keep the pulse of the space industry, please visit our website at www.SpaceWatch.Global and subscribe to our newsletters. And of course, don't forget to become a Space Watcher. I'm Emma Gatti, Senior Editor at SpaceWatch.Global, your independent perspective on space. See you next time. Ciao.